Hello, everyone. I'm Theo Eshart from Henry Stewart Events, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar sponsored by CI Hub. From chaos to collaboration, aligning marketing and creative teams. During the session, please send through your questions at any point using the questions box, which you can open by clicking on the question mark at the top of your GoToWebinar window. Also, a reminder that a recording of this session will be sent to you tomorrow, so you can view it again at your own pace. And now it's my great pleasure to pass you over to Sean Bedford from Asset Bank. Thank you, and over to you.
Thanks, Theo. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean. I'm the Head of Customer Success at Asset Bank, and I'll be hosting our webinar today. I'd like to say a big thank you to CI Hub, who have given us the opportunity to speak to you all, and to Henry Stewart for putting on this event. So a little bit of housekeeping. As usual, at a webinar, you'll all be on mute and cameras are set to off. As Theo mentioned, we're taking questions at the end, but feel free to add them to the Q&A as we go. So what's this webinar all about? Well, we've all worked in marketing teams where we've asked design to create something for us. It's been sent over, but after a couple of edits and back and forth during approvals, the final version has maybe got lost in an email thread. Or you're a designer and the marketing department keeps asking you for the same image you sent them 3 weeks ago because they're not confident it's the right version. It's pretty frustrating, right? Well, today we're digging into how that's all neatly solved with Asset Bank and CI Hub. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to our expert panel who'll be doing all the hard work while I sit here and try and look important. First up, my colleague Marcus Vasiliou, who'll talk us through what the main pain points creatives and marketers have and how a digital asset management tool helps. How you doing, Marcus?
Great, thanks, Sean.
Wonderful. And then our real-world case study from Pien, senior content producer at Elior, who will share a bit about what life was like before integrating Asset Bank and CI Hub into their current workflow, some of the brilliant wins they've seen after the integration, and how much it's improved collaboration across their marketing and creative teams. Great to see you, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And last, by no means least, it's Phil Arnold from CI Hub, a seasoned webinar pro who'll give us all details on what CI Hub is, how it works, and an insight into what is coming soon. Hi, Phil.
Hi, I'm Sean. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks.
Great. And then it's over to you, our wonderful audience, for 15 minutes or so of questions. So let's get started. Marcus, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Sean. So I'll start by giving a bit of an introduction to a company I work for, and Sean also works for, is a company called Asset Bank. Asset Bank is a digital asset management solution, which henceforth I'm going to be calling a DAM. So it's just for brevity as much as anything. And we've been in operation since 1999. The product's been live since 2004. Over that time, over more than 20 years, we've continued to evolve our product to meet the needs of more than 500 clients working with us. And those clients come from a range of industries, including retail, hospitality, technology, education, not-for-profit, pretty much every industry out there. And here's just a selection of some of our client logos. We're also proud to have been recognized within our industry. So we've got awards for user adoption, performance, and recommendation by our users. And if you want to find out more about what our users think of us, we have reviews on Trustpilot, G2, and Capterra. And here are just a selection of, well, 3 of them from some of our customers. But let's start off with, I introduced the concept of a DAM, or digital asset management solution. What is a DAM? I know that within the attendees today, we'll have people who are already using Asset Bank, people who are using a different DAM, but there may be people who don't know what a DAM is or what it's for, what it does. So here's a short clip showing why DAMs exist. So essentially, a DAM, it's one central home for your assets. It allows you to search, browse, reuse, and share things really quickly. It's essentially a central repository and control center for all your digital assets, whatever file type they might be. So this can help reduce bottlenecks in your organization where one person knows where everything's stored and everyone has to ask them. It also makes it far easier to search, find, and share the best, most up-to-date versions of your content as well as to integrate with design software and keep track of important updates and things that can make it easier with data that's tied to the assets. So this gives your entire team the efficient self-serve access to all the content you want them to have and use. Today's webinar is about taking us from chaos to collaboration. So ending chaos really starts with creating order in your assets. I can give you a bit of a personal story of my own experience. Before I worked for Asset Bank, I worked for a different company in another life. I had an extremely important presentation for what would potentially be our biggest client. And there was a specific infographic that I'd seen our CEO use in an internal presentation not far before I was creating this sales deck. I knew it existed, I'd seen it, but nobody knew where it was. Nobody knew where the deck was, nobody knew who'd created the infographic. And after asking several people, searching through dozens of similarly named files that all potentially could have been that deck, I couldn't find it, had to create a new one. So it just created a lot of extra effort, a lot of difficulty, and frankly, the end result wasn't as good as it should be. So in terms of why we use a DAM, we've got one click to be able to share assets. It's secure and branded, and of course, it makes the ability to find and share things instant and professional. Working with the DAM gives you brand consistency, it gives you clear version control, allows you to work with things like consent management, and has a clear structure for you to allow and deploy access permissions. Within brand consistency, this allows you to stay on brand, keep a central hub for all your logos, templates, and guidelines, and also continue to have consistent quality. So I've certainly been told off before by marketing for using an old logo or something that's quite, not decent resolution. With a DAM, you can make sure that people only have access to the right quality, the right version, and the right resolution. Control access as well, so make sure that teams use the right files, not outdated ones that they shouldn't be using anymore. Giving you brand uniformity, keeping standards at everyone's fingertip, and creating global consistency. So all of your assets can be the right ones across all your teams and all regions. Ending confusion about which is the latest or most correct version of a file is also an advantage. So when you see someone's updated something and there's version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can end confusion about that by using a DAM which has clear version control. Give your teams confidence to self-serve so that they know they won't accidentally pick the wrong version. You can also use alerts for admin teams or master users to ensure that there are no surprises. If someone starts making changes, they can be alerted and make sure that they haven't affected the quality of the assets that they should be using. And then you can control which versions can be seen, which are hidden, and which are deleted. Giving yourself also access to audit trails so you can see what changes have been made over time. Some photos, videos, etc. require consent from the rights owner. So this means that their usage could potentially expose you to risk if it's not managed correctly. Using a DAM allows you to keep these things under control with easy visibility over consent. So you can tie an asset to the consent form, tie the expiry date of that asset to the expiry of that consent. So if, for example, you've got a photograph that you only have consent to use up until August the 31st, you can make sure that that image no longer is available for people to use after that date, making sure there's no risk of that going out when it shouldn't be. It gives you a centralized repository for not only the assets, also the consent forms. It can eradicate misuse, stop people from using expired content, and make sure that you can track asset usage for compliance if required. And for what about our design team? So I know that there's some people in here from the design teams who work closely with marketing. For users of a DAM, the CI Hub interface, which we're going to see further information on in a minute, allows you to pull all your assets into other tools without the need to flip between apps. The interface will link things like your design software directly to Asset Bank, allowing you to browse folders, access lightboxes or collections, run searches just as you would from within the Asset Bank DAM itself. You can pull files, edit them, and then re-upload the new version to the Asset Bank. But you'll also have full version history, so you'll be able to track edited assets that have been produced in the design software against older versions. So this makes it much easier for marketing, creative, and design to collaborate without more effort, without more resources, bringing together that much sought after collaboration.
Thanks so much, Marcus. There's two key themes there that I think will really resonate with our audience. One is about being able to maintain brand integrity, which is so important to marketeers, and also saving time. I mean, all of us want to get extra hours back in our day, right? So if you've got systems that talk to each other really well and mean that you can collaborate and streamline your processes, then I think everyone will be on board with things like that. And that's quite a nice segue actually into one of our guests, which is Ben from Elior. I've had the pleasure of working with Ben for the last few years now. So I'm going to hand over to Ben, who's going to show us how they went from chaos to collaboration by using Asset Bank and CI Hub. Hi, Ben, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. And hi, everyone. As Sean mentioned, I'm Ben Pien. I'm the senior content producer at Elior North America. If you're not familiar with Elior, we're a global food service company. And here in North America, we serve a wide range of industries from education and healthcare to business dining, senior nutrition, catering, and even corrections. So yeah, it's a pretty big range. And with that comes a huge amount of diverse storytelling. 13 brands, each with their own identity, their own audience, and their own message. My role is to help keep all those stories visually aligned across photo, video, motion, and more recently, asset management. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the journey that we took to clean up our content workflows because what we had before just wasn't working for us, and how Asset Bank and CI Hub really kind of helped us to pull it all together. Let's start kind of with where we were. So here's the reality. As our teams grew and our brands expanded, things started to kind of break down behind the scenes for us. We had content and lots of it, but it was scattered everywhere. We had shared drives with no structure, personal folders on desktops, files stuck in emails, and no one knowing what was like really current or approved. It caused a lot of real problems for us. Our proposals team was wasting time trying to get images approved or find the approved images. Our designers were sorting through 5 different versions of the same photo. People were using outdated or unapproved visuals without even really realizing it. And as a for-profit company, documentation around photo releases for employees and dining guests in our units was becoming more difficult for us to manage, even putting our company at potential legal risk. It became harder and harder for us to keep our visuals consistent across our teams, brands, and projects. And honestly, a lot of our creative time got swallowed up just answering asset-related questions. So we knew we had to do something, and we knew we had to change something. And that's when we started really looking for a better way or a better solution. We decided to look into digital asset management platforms, but we weren't just looking for a new tool. We needed something or someone that could really help us rethink the way that we were working. And after a lot of research and a pretty long evaluation process, we landed on Asset Bank. They weren't just selling a product, they were really listening to us and listening to our needs. And so through that process, we also threw some pretty big asks their way. And to their credit, they didn't shy away from them at all. They just rolled up their sleeves, worked with us on the custom setups, and helped us design a system that matched how we work. And of course, the migration wasn't easy, moving thousands, tens of thousands of files from multiple systems, cleaning them up, tagging them, assigning metadata. It took a lot of time, but their team supported us throughout all of it, the whole process. And once we were in, the impact was fairly immediate. We finally had a central hub for everything, for photos, videos, design files, releases, searchable metadata that let us find what we needed when we needed it, role-based access and approval paths that helped us maintain quality control, and a place for our employees to go to access approved assets for their sales and marketing enablement needs. For our proposal team, it meant that they could grab what they needed on their own without waiting days for someone to confirm if it was the right file. For our designers, it meant fewer Teams messages and fewer versions flying around. They could work with confidence, knowing they were using the right materials. And for me and the team, it also meant less time chasing down files and more time spent focusing on strategy and creation. Plus, with portals and non-user access features, we could also let other teams outside of our creative team grab what they needed without needing full accounts or, detailed trainings. This made everything more accessible without sacrificing our quality control. But even with that, something was still just slowing us down. Asset Bank solved a lot for us, but our designers and proposal teams were still working around the system. They were leaving their design apps, going to Asset Bank, downloading files, saving them locally, and then pulling them into their work. It sounds small, but when you're doing it a dozen times a day, it's a huge time suck, and not to mention a version control nightmare. And because files were being downloaded locally, we started to see duplicated assets building up. Different people saving the same asset with different names or tweaking things and forgetting to update the source. All of a sudden, we were at risk of drifting away from the same consistency that we had worked so hard to build with Asset Bank. And that's really where CI Hub came in for us. It connects Asset Bank directly into our Adobe apps, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, etc. So instead of jumping between platforms, designers can now browse Asset Bank from within Adobe. They can drag and drop assets directly into their layouts, linking to a source of truth, and always pull the most recent, current approved file. It was a total game changer for us. The creative flow wasn't being interrupted anymore. We weren't manually managing files, and the assets stayed linked, reducing version confusion even further. And it made for file sharing across teams more seamless by eliminating file packaging. In short, CI Hub gave our team momentum. It brought Asset Bank into the day-to-day creative workspace, and that made all the difference. So what's changed? The impact has been real. Turnaround times have dropped. We're faster on proposals, faster on design revisions. Our visual consistency is stronger across all of our brands, and collaboration is much smoother, especially between proposals, design, marketing, and myself. But more than that, we've gotten back our creative space. We're spending way less time digging through folders and more time making things that actually move the needle for us. We're telling better stories with more focus and way less stress. To kind of wrap it all up, this journey wasn't just about tools. It was about changing how we actually work. We went from chaos, a scattered, reactive way of dealing with content, to more collaboration, where everyone knows where to go, what to use, and how to work together. Asset Bank gave us structure, and CI Hub gave us flow. And together, they let us focus on what we're actually here to do, which is to create, communicate, and tell stories that matter.
Thanks so much, Ben. It's great to see the journey that you guys at Elior have been on. I've been working with you for the last couple of years, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, and from when you got Asset Bank and you've been rolling that out on onboarding other teams within Elior to then building out your kind of CI Hub integrations and using Adobe, Figma, and Microsoft, and it's great to hear you guys go from strength to strength. So thanks so much for joining us today. I also wanted to share with everybody another success story we've had from our client VHAG. So VHAG joined us at Asset Bank a short while ago and took on the Adobe integration. And you can see here they've said CI Hub integration between Asset Bank and Adobe programs is a game changer for creative users, significantly streamlining asset management and workflow efficiency. They went on to say that because assets are pulled directly from Asset Bank, users always work with the latest approved versions, reducing errors caused by outdated files. This ensures brand consistency and eliminates unnecessary rework due to old or incorrect assets being used. So it really echoes the point that Marcus was making earlier about how these systems can maintain that brand integrity. So I'm now going to hand over to, as I mentioned earlier, a bit of webinar royalty with Phil Arnold from CI Hub, who is going to talk us through what CI Hub is, what it offers, and a little bit about what's coming next. Over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Sean. I fear my head might be getting too big for a webinar now. I think you've bigged me up far too much, and the only thing that will follow is massive disappointment. But I'll do my best. And huge
Thank
thanks as well, Ben, for such a detailed, comprehensive case study of how your processes have changed at Elior. So yeah, what I want to do is introduce a little bit about why CI Hub exists, what problem are we trying to solve, and then explain a little bit about how we solve it. So it really stems from one of the really big challenges that a lot of users of dams face these days, now that everything has moved to web-based platforms, is how do you make it easy for users to actually work with those files? Should your dam just be a repository of final approved assets that are being used, or should it also be used as a work in progress resource? Back in the good old days, for those of us that were working with dams before everything went web-based, and it was based on local applications, or even if it was just a file system. From a creative team's point of view, it was so much easier to work with your files. You could navigate a structure either in a file system or in a bespoke app. You could double click it, it would open in your local application as you would expect it to. You could work on it, close it, save it, and it would be a new version in the dam. But when everything went web-based, there is no integration between a web app and the creative applications that you're using every day. And it ends up with, most of the time, users either not putting things into the dam until they're final and signed off, or having to download them out of the dam, adapt them locally, then re-upload them as a new version. And then what happens if someone else is working on that file at the same time? Version management can become really difficult. And very quickly, there's a big risk of your dam that's been built on this idea of being the single source of truth for all your marketing assets, very quickly becoming no longer your single source of truth. So CI Hub was created to solve this problem. So we integrate your dam, your cloud storage platforms, directly into the environment that your users are working with. They see access to their assets, the metadata, search for stuff directly inside the applications you're using every day, and also directly within your desktop operating system. So it's really simple and quick, removing all manual file management, all distractions of moving from one application to another, and saves an enormous amount of time and effort, and most importantly ensures that your dam remains the single source of truth throughout your entire creative workflow. So CI Hub integrates with over 70 of the leading dam cloud storage platforms, including Asset Bank, but we also connect to many other dam platforms and cloud storage platforms like SharePoint, Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and you can make all of those assets directly available within all your applications. We also integrate with task management systems like Workfront or Asana, and stock libraries like iStock, Unsplash, Shutterstock, those kind of things. And there's no limit to how many of these you can connect to and have access to all of them at once. And these connections all appear directly within your desktop applications with the same user interface, regardless of which one you've connected to or which application you're using. So it's train once, use anywhere. And what we often find when talking to customers or implementing dams, and I've implemented a lot of dams over the years for different platforms, is a lot of the time and effort, quite rightly, is spent getting your dam or other platforms within your marketing technology stack talking to each other. So this sort of system to system integration. And that helps to build out a seamless marketing tech stack that's designed for your specific business needs, which is all wonderful. It ensures that departments work together in a common way, all data is shared where and when needed. But the bit that's often missed is the user experience. And this can end up often being disjointed and difficult for the users to manage. So you get a different UI for the different applications you're connecting to. You have multiple web apps open at once and you're sort of trying to juggle all these different windows. If you want to work on files, you're downloading them out of the system, working on them locally, and then putting them back in again, or forgetting to put them back in again if you're anything like me, and then getting in trouble with marketing. And this can create a heavy training burden, along with a high risk of mistakes being made, especially if you need to quickly expand the team and get some freelancers in. You're then spending a huge amount of time training up new people. So what CI Hub is then doing is putting the end user experience as the primary focus within your MarTech stack. So directly integrating all the desktop apps that your users work with a single user experience, regardless of which element of your MarTech stack they're connecting to. It supports over 27 applications, so everything from the Adobe Creative Suite, including Adobe Express, Premiere Pro, InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, also Microsoft Office and Google Office, SharePoint, Figma, Sketch, as of last week, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and soon, probably next month in June, we'll be launching our integration into Canva. And I also mentioned direct integration into your desktop environment. So we have our CI Hub Drive product, which integrates directly into macOS Finder and Windows Explorer. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but that can create some interesting use cases and workflow options for your users. So within the CI Hub product family, we have 3 products. We've got our CI Hub Professional connector, and anyone who's familiar with CI Hub or using it at the moment, that's the one you're almost certainly using. CI Hub Drive we launched for Mac last year. We're currently in a beta program for the Windows version, and that should be out in the next couple of months. And we're also working on a new corporate connector to be launched sort of mid this year, to provide a streamlined user interface for the non-creative users. So predominantly aimed at Office users, built around 4 main features of find your assets, use your assets, share them, and also includes a built-in brand portal. So users can see brand guidelines and brand assets directly where they're going to be using them, rather than having to search them somewhere else, download them. And on the next few slides, we're going to see some examples of what it looks like. So one of the key benefits is a uniform user experience, regardless of where a user is working and what systems they're connecting to. It always works and looks the same. You can connect to as many platforms as you want that we support. And within there, you can search. Because we're connecting directly to Asset Bank or your other DAM that you're working with, we're using their searching. So whatever you're used to searching for with Boolean operators, you can just put them into the search inside the CI Hub panel and it will return results as you would get them through Asset Bank. You're also using your Asset Bank login. So you get your access rights, permissions, workflows, everything you'd expect. And then you can, once you've found those assets, you can drag and drop metadata or the assets themselves directly into the documents you're working on. And that includes on-demand resolution selection if you want to take a low-res image for web use, or you want to place a multi-layered Photoshop document into a PowerPoint document. We can have that single asset being shown, but you can place a flattened JPEG of it directly into the document. We also have the option to update linked assets. So if you've got images placed from Asset Bank into an InDesign file, for example, and that source image changes, you can have notification to the user that the source image has changed, the metadata has changed, have it update directly into the document. So you can see it here in InDesign. We also have it showing in what comes up next, Adobe Express, as well as PowerPoint, Outlook, Figma, and then the next screen we have CI Hub Drive. And because we're tightly integrating into the operating system, your users can navigate your DAM as if it was a mounted file system. And with apologies to any creative users who have joined us today, this is one of the areas we see huge benefits for. That from a creative user's point of view, working within a web-based DAM, downloading assets, modifying them, it's a complete pain. So what CI Hub Drive allows you to do is navigate Asset Bank as if it was a mounted file system. So you see folders, you see files. It's not a file system, it's direct access into your DAM, but it operates and looks like a file system. So you can run searches within it. It integrates tightly into Spotlight if you're using a Mac. You can see metadata, you can see workflow statuses. And most importantly, if you want to work on one of those files, you just double click it. It's that simple. And then you can make your changes, save it. That then saves a new version back into Asset Bank without you having to do anything. It just works. The other use case we see a lot with Drive is distributing assets to remote users. So if you've got a distributed team like a retail network or something like that, you can push approved asset sets over to users so they appear on their desktop, and then based on a workflow step change or any other metadata change, you can remove those assets from the users and push a new set to them. So if there's a new marketing campaign being rolled out, they can get them automatically. So you massively reduce the risk of outdated assets being used where users have manually stored them somewhere locally. So here we have a list of our supported applications, and as new ones become available, they just become available to you. So you've got the option to add those into your license package as well. And we're always looking for input from our customers and our partners for integrations that they would like to see us supporting in the future. And because this is what we do, every time there is an update to one of the Adobe products, Microsoft products, any of the supported applications, we're already working on the new version. So once they're released, we're supporting the new release, usually within a week of that being made available to the public. So there's no risk of you updating to a new version and then suddenly everything stops working. So this, is available for you to try out, have a play with, have a look on our website, and hopefully that's given a bit of an insight into what CI Hub can do, how it can make your flow work. And with that, I'll hand back to you, Sean.
Thanks a lot, Phil. Really appreciate you taking the time to take us through what CI Hub can offer. And it's great to see that so many things are on the horizon. And CI Hub is so compatible with lots of different platforms. So I'm sure that's been of interest to our attendees today. Well, it's coming up to question time. You've still got time to add some questions to our expert panel. But let's kick things off. Ben, you're first up. I've got a question for you. So did you get any pushback from your teams when implementing Asset Bank?
Yeah, I think we anticipated more pushback than we actually got. We did get a little bit, and it was more around just folks thinking about having another tool to learn, another login, another password that they're going to have to remember. That was really the biggest pushback we received. But one of the nice things about Asset Bank is we use the ability to use single sign-on. So our team members can actually use their same login that they use for Microsoft Office, and logging into their computers essentially, and makes it a lot easier. It's one less thing they have to remember. Also, I would say, folks were a little bit, with having so many different segments, or individual segments held a lot of assets on their own. So when I spoke a little bit previously about, different file storage systems, they were kind of more in control of their own assets. And so we received just a little bit of pushback around that, and, kind of bringing it all together and having one repository. But that's mostly the pushback we got.
Great. And now I think you guys are into year 3 or 4 using Asset Bank, and it seems to be, as I mentioned earlier, becoming more and more entrenched in everybody's workflows, which is great. Let's see. Next question, Marcus. Question. So
Hey.
this person writes, we work with a load of partners. Can Asset Bank be customizable so we retain brand consistency?
Yes, it's a simple answer. I think, if you recall back to my intro, we work with a huge amount of customers across lots of different industries. So first of all, the aesthetics, the things that could be customized, like the URL, logo, color scheme, and font, so that they're the look and feel of the Asset Bank fits the company's branding. But also, one of the key things about Asset Bank and the way we work with such a diverse range of clients across different geographies, industries, sizes, and what have you, is configurability. So the platform was built to be extremely configurable, so we can make sure that there is an Asset Bank which is suitable for you as a customer. So the look and feel, as well as the way it works, the way that the workflows are set up, etc., are built for our customer in each case.
Thanks, Marcus. And another thing I know that you offer is a branded trial. So if someone wants to try out Asset Bank as part of that sales process, we can get it all customized and branded up so it looks like their very own Asset Bank whilst they're testing it out before making that final decision.
Absolutely, yeah. It just gives people a chance to get under the hood and see how it works for them, rather than taking my word for it, because obviously I would say it was great. They can see for themselves.
Yeah. To keep things fair, we've got a question for Phil. Is CI Hub free?
Oh, that's a nice, easy question. Thank you. It's not free, but you can get a free 30-day trial from our website. You just sign up for it there, try it out, see if it meets your needs. If you're unsure, drop us a line and we can show you how to use it and get you set up and make some recommendations on workflow.
Yeah, exactly. And if we have, I know we've got some of our existing Asset Bank customers here. If you're interested in trying out CI Hub free for 30 days, you can speak to your customer success manager and we can get that set up for you so you can give it a whirl. Phil, I've got another one for you. So this person writes, it was great to see so many integrations. What are the most popular integrations people use?
That's a good question. It's very much because we come from, the first ones we were developing were the Adobe Creative Suite. That's still where we have the most users working with CI Hub, is within the Adobe Creative Suite. But that's starting to change quite rapidly. We have more and more users signing up for the Microsoft Office integration, also using integration into SharePoint, and very quickly we're seeing a big uptake of CI Hub Drive, which we expect to accelerate once the Windows release is finalized. So I think it will continue to change.
Yeah, I think that's tracks pretty much with what we've seen here. The Adobe one has started off as the front runner, and Ben, I think that was your journey as well, taking Adobe, Microsoft, and then increasing the number of licenses you had on those as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how things do change the more you release things. And as you know, we've got a lot of people waiting for this Canva release. That'll be quite exciting when that comes out. Marcus, are there any AI elements to Asset Bank?
Yes, is the short answer again. With rolling out AI, there's a lot of talk about AI in digital asset management, well, as there is in pretty much all SaaS. And while there's a rush for a lot of people to deploy AI, we're really conscious of making sure that any new features we build into the platform actually add value. So we've rolled out AI auto tagging, so that's already in place. That means that one of the, I think Ben alluded to earlier, the process of uploading and putting content into your asset bank is made much smoother, much easier by the fact that, like, for example, images can be tagged. The AI can see, what's this a picture of? What are the likely things that people might be searching for? Is it people in a table, sitting around an office, all that kind of stuff. So it does a lot of that heavy lifting for you. And we have a roadmap of new features which we've put in place, including AI search, searching for similar assets with AI, and also AI search via an image. So this is a bit like doing an image search on Google or something like that, where you upload an image to see if the original is in the DAM already, or if there are similar types of image. And also we're bringing out AI metadata, so auto-generating descriptions and alt text for assets as they're uploaded. So using AI to actually enhance the user experience, make it easier to adopt, and really, making sure that we're putting it in places that are going to really add value to the customers that we have and the customers that are going to work with us in the future.
Yeah, there's definitely some exciting AI developments coming soon in Asset Bank, so watch this space. Ben, it seems like the audience are really keen to hear about your decision-making process when buying Asset Bank. So one question we've had is there anything you'd have done differently when rolling out Asset Bank?
Yeah, I think it was the first time we had ever used a dam. There was a lot of consideration that went into, Asset Bank. But one of the things that I would say is the thing that I would maybe do differently is when we moved our assets over, we kind of moved everything over. So anything that we had out there, we moved over, and we decided to move it over and then kind of clean it up, tag stuff, because we had a lot of assets that weren't tagged at all, or didn't have the proper naming conventions, things like that. And I think if I were to do it differently next time, I would probably be a little bit more specific with what I send over at first, just so it's less cleaning up after the fact. But we really needed to get everything in there and start using it right away. So that's why we decided to do it that way.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully you'll never have to do it again, right? So
yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. Phil, so I did tease this a second ago, and hopefully you won't pull me up on it, but can you tell us a bit more about the Canva integration?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that one. We have done the development and we are waiting for it to be approved and listed in Canva store. But that's all I can say. We don't know how long that process will take.
In terms of the way that it would work with something like Asset Bank, similar kind of format, you work within Canva, it's all the same.
Exactly the same. That's kind of the whole concept of CI Hub. It will look and act the same regardless of what application you're in.
Yeah, great. Just to make things a bit more awkward for you, you don't have any idea on timings. It's just waiting when it's approved by Canva.
Exactly.
Right. All right. Well, I'll follow up with you on that one in due course. I'm really interested in that. A question for Marcus. So one of our audience members writes, Asset Bank looks great. How easy is it to share images with people outside of my immediate business?
Yeah, that's a great question, and this comes up quite a lot when we're working with new clients. I think a lot of the time people are thinking about Asset Bank or a DAM as a solution for making it easy to share internally. But the way Asset Bank's built, we've got a couple of solutions. We have functionality called lightboxes. Lightboxes are essentially collections of assets. They're single tier collections of assets. The way I always thought about it is like a table with a load of photographs or videos spread over it. If you're working on a particular project or you're working with an external designer, you can share those lightboxes or collections internally, or you can publish them as a URL and share them with anyone. So people externally who don't have a user license for Asset Bank can still click on the URL and access the assets, the videos, whatever you've shared in the lightbox. they can, and then you can control what they can do with that as well. So you can control whether they can download them, can they download them in a certain resolution, or so on. For more complex structures, we have something called portals. A portal is similar to a lightbox, but allows you to create like a structured file structure of assets, whether it be like if you're sharing larger volumes or you want to share folders and subfolders. And again, you can publish those and be shared with external users who don't have any access to Asset Bank as a licensed user. And you can also password protect them. So let's say, for example, you want to share those and only have people with the password using. You can create a password. It's really easy to do on the platform. And I'm happy to show anybody who wants to see how it works if they want to have a demo or try it out for themselves with a trial.
Great, thanks, Marcus. And whilst I'm with you, someone's asked, in regards to tagging assets, is that a manual process?
Kind of like what I touched on earlier. So tagging assets, it can be manual, but we also have this AI auto tagging. So AI auto tagging is a process where AI essentially looks at the asset for you, picks up on what's there and what it looks like and what kind of things people are likely to search for, and adds those as tags for you. But of course, if you've got specific things that you want to put in there because you know people are going to search for that, you can manually tag as well. So there's a combination of approaches.
Great, thank you, Marcus. Phil, got a couple of interesting ones that have come through for you. So this person says, we're a large organization with creatives, mostly freelancers, and regular office workers who also use images for simple presentations. What license would you recommend for CI Hub?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably needs a bit more digging into. What I'd suggest is that we get in touch with you after the webinar, probably tomorrow, and let's have a chat about it, because it is based on which applications you want to use, numbers of users, and the functionality you need. So yeah, we'll be in touch and let's have a chat.
Great, yeah, we'll collect their information and pass it over. Another one for you, Phil. So what advantages does CI Hub bring in terms of information retrieval compared to Asset Bank, which already offers numerous search possibilities such as browsing by keywords?
Well, in terms of like search and information retrieval, it's exactly the same, because we're using Asset Bank's functionality or any other DAM's functionality where we've got the integration. What CI Hub is doing is changing where you can find it and making it simpler. So we're letting you find it directly within the applications, but also then use that information and assets directly in the applications that you're working in. So if you're pulling together a PowerPoint deck or an email and you want to pull across some product data and an image that goes with it, you can do it directly from within the application without having to go to your DAM, find them, download them, and then copy and paste metadata, drag and drop your image back in, and then lose that connection between those assets. By doing it through CI Hub, you can drag and drop it from within the panel in PowerPoint, and it maintains the link between where that image was sourced and where it's now been placed. So you're reducing both manual work in the short term, but if you then need to update it because there's been an update to the product and there's a new release of it, or the specs have changed, you can find it very easily without having to try and find it back again inside your DAM.
Yeah, that really reiterates what both you and Marcus were saying earlier about having that single source of truth, but being able to search and retrieve assets whilst you're in that application. It just saves so much time for people. Marcus, we're on to the topic of security now. So how secure is a DAM system like Asset Bank?
Yeah, that's a really important question, and I think it again, in my experience, this is something that's asked all the time. So, certainly my experience of Asset Bank since I joined the company, security has been at the core of everything. It's been a real important part of how data is held, how it's stored, how we use it. We're ISO 27001 certified, which means we have to comply with all of the various pieces of that certification. and it shows that we're basically taking customer data really seriously. And there are lots of controls in place. So I think the easiest thing to do is look on our help center, or I can certainly, if people have got questions about security, there are obviously lots of specifics that people will have about their specific type of security. So we're always happy to talk to you about what measures are in place that are specific to you. But things generally like single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, user-specific permissions, so that people can only see things that are specific to their user group. We do things like regular penetration testing, vulnerability testing or scanning, and we only work. I've seen that when we work with external suppliers ourselves, they have to go through a rigorous security screening. So we have our own internal compliance procedures to make sure that nothing is going to be added to our own stack that would compromise the data that we have. So overall, it's quite simply a huge focus for us to make sure that data security fits around everything that we do. It's a wrapper of everything that we do, and it maintains a core process through all of our work and all of our development.
Yeah, extremely important to us. And if we have any of our current customers on the call and they would like any information on security, as Marcus said, please reach out to our support team or to your customer success manager, and we can point you in the right direction. And of course, anyone who's interested in having a demo of Asset Bank, Marcus can provide that to you as well. Ben, can you share any top tips with user adoption internally?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just creating trainings for your teams. So for us, we kind of broke it down into trainings for different. The way we have ours kind of built out is we have just the regular Asset Bank DAM. So for that, we have different groups. So we utilize a group feature. So we kind of separated our training in that way. So we had our creative teams on a training that was geared a little bit more towards them specifically and how they use the DAM and CI Hub, as well as our proposals team. We did a separate one for those folks, and then we did a separate training for our marketing directors and folks who access our DAM through portals. So I would just suggest kind of however you decide to have your group set up as far as how they access the DAM, kind of cater it a little bit towards those specific groups, and that kind of breaks it up a little bit as well.
It's been great to hear how Ben, yourself and your team have taken on the actual training. You've taken a kind of weight off of my shoulders in a way, because you guys had the initial training through our team, but then you were saying, right, we're now running an onboarding session for this team or this team, and you've kind of taken that on yourself. So we really do encourage admin users to, we want to empower them to have the knowledge of how to set up and configure the Asset Bank. And there's also things you can do within the system itself, like you can create your own training guides that you can add to the menu in Asset Bank. You can also create a folder where maybe you could keep training videos in there as well. So it becomes that one place to go and learn all about the system you're using.
That's a great point. Yeah, we do actually link to our SharePoint site where we have video trainings for the DAM as well. And we have that right in the menu bar in our Asset Bank. So that's it's actually absolutely useful.
Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks so much, everyone, for the questions they've submitted. There's a few that we haven't been able to get to, so we will reach out after the webinar and follow up directly. I want to say a big thanks to Ben from Elior for joining us today, Phil for inviting us to come along and speak to everybody, and of course, my esteemed colleague, Marcus Vasiliou, for answering all the Asset Bank questions. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming along. And I'll pass you back to Theo.
Thank you all for speaking at today's webinar. That was a great presentation. If you'd like to watch the presentation again, we'll send the recording to you all tomorrow. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you all.